In the previous video, a professor re-examined and questioned old experiments, particularly the one where rats were confined in tiny cages and given 2 types of drugs. He also challenged the prevailing view about addiction, specifically the notion that heroin is the most severe form of addiction. But in reality, don't you see that we're addicted to many other things? Like cigarettes, online gaming, overeating to the point of obesity. These are all forms of addiction. Karaoke, feeling uncomfortable if we don't go drinking or singing every week. Isn't that addiction too? We have countless bad habits, and they all stem from addiction. Any bad habit that repeats itself and can't be corrected is essentially a form of addiction. Through this video, we realize something. The root cause of bad habits is unhealthy external connections. In fact, there's a very special connection that this video doesn't recognize, the connection with oneself. Has that person truly understood themselves? If not, they'll tend to cling to external things. And when clinging to external things without wisdom, they'll cling to the wrong things. Instead of holding on to good things, people cling to things that only provide temporary satisfaction. Heroin is an example. Inject it, feel euphoric for 15 minutes, but suffer for a lifetime afterward. Cigarettes are the same. Smoke one, feel good for 5 minutes, but then be addicted for life years later. So if you delve deeper into this video, you can analyze many more incisive points. A video like this represents sometimes 10 years of research work. It's the achievement of a psychology PhD. Here, he makes some profound statements, like choose between a big house or friends. Friends are connection. Then we typically take addicts and people with bad habits like theft, which is just another form of bad behavior, and put them in prison, literally caging them. When we cage them like this, do you think their minds generate comfort or discomfort? Obviously discomfort. If you imprison them for 3 years after release, does this discomfort disappear? Not only does it not disappear, but it accumulates, deepens inside, becoming internal knots. When they return to society, if someone touches that exact pain point, it erupts again, grows stronger, and they commit crimes once more. Once I visited a prison. After sharing with the inmates, I went to the director's office and talked with him. I asked him, because I knew these numbers from many prisons, in your prison, after 5 years, how many return? He releases them, but after 5 years, they come back, commit crimes again, and in his province, they're brought back to his prison. Where else would they go? He answered, after 5 years, our statistics show 97% return to prison. The remaining 3% either reform or die. You see, looking at this, we realize that today's prisons worldwide are almost useless. See, they don't solve the problem. The term prison was originally translated as rehabilitation center, and rehabilitation is a beautiful word. Re means to change, improve. Habilitate means to build, construct. This means we must change them, build a new character for them. Only then is it worthy of being called a rehabilitation center. Once you recognize this, you'll immediately transform into a very special kind of prison. You'll find ways to bring education into the prison system, using every method possible to help transform lives. So think about it. Should we live 75 years just to make money? Or should we live 75 years truly focused on personal growth? Which is the right path? Even in death, it should be a lesson in personal development. Death, in itself, is a powerful lesson. Life itself is a vast school teaching us countless lessons, not just a journey to accumulate wealth as we often believe. A person who develops themselves moderately, someone who understands personal growth and contribution, we call that person someone who's on the right path. They know how to grow and how to give back. But someone who dives deep into the consciousness, who develops themselves by understanding the depths of their own mind and how the laws of consciousness are in harmony with the universe, this person sees life not just as a school, but as a spiritual journey. This spiritual journey is a higher, more challenging level, but it's also far more fascinating. When you begin to see life as a spiritual path, the meaning of life becomes much clearer. But if you only see life as a school, sometimes you still won't grasp the full meaning. And if life is just about making money to prove your success, then you'll never truly touch the deeper meaning of life, even if you're a billionaire. You'll forever staying outside that door. So why do we need connection? Why do we need to connect with the outside? Is it because we feel weak inside? If you were strong within, you wouldn't need to connect to the external world. That's why when you look at the great sages and wise masters of the past, did they go into the city to connect with people, or did they went into the forest, into the mountains? Which one was more common? If you want to find a true master, a wise sage, you have to go to the mountains, to the forests, to seek them out. Look in your readings, every nation has stories like these. None of these sages lived in cities. That's why the Buddha spent 6 years living in the forest. Only after completing his practice and training did he step out into the world to guide others. There are those who, sensing they have not yet reached full enlightenment, choose to remain in the forest. Yet even their state of incompleteness far surpasses our level of spiritual development. That's why when we seek spiritual teachers and wisdom, we often must go to the mountains and forests. That's the reason. Seeking true wisdom requires this approach. Thus, through these wise ones, we see an interesting counterpoint to the previous video about connection. It seems these people didn't connect with many others, but rather connected deeply with themselves and with nature, with the universe. These two connections were enough. They didn't need to connect with many people. But now, we're not that type of person, are we? We're sitting here in the hustle and bustle of the city. So we're not the type to retreat to the forest for spiritual practice, right? Therefore, we need to find ways to connect within our daily lives. But how should we connect? What is the most valuable connection? Which connection is the deepest? Which connection is a true treasure? Whoever finds the answers to these questions will truly understand the value of life. The slide I'm showing here has just a few lines, but it took me 5 years to complete it. You could go to Google, search the Bible, and try typing words like living environment or what connection should a person have. Try searching and see what you find. If you find anything, it will likely say only one thing: connect with God. You could also try looking in the Tao Te Ching of Lao Tzu to see what it says about connection. Keep searching and you'll realize that very few sources speak about it in a specific and clear way. Living environment is essentially about connection. Whatever environment you live in, you'll connect with the elements in that environment. Wherever you live, that's where you connect. For example, if you live in Vietnam, you connect with Vietnamese people, culture, and energy. So wherever we're born, we naturally connect with that environment. So the question arises, what is the ideal living environment? Fortunately, someone has spoken very clearly about this. I found only one person who addressed this directly, while others merely touched on it briefly. Their point is, we have 3 main objects for building our connections. Of course, there are many things we can connect with, but too many objects will confuse you, making it hard to identify what's important. Therefore, the 3 most important objects you must connect with are all external to yourself. The first principle: to live meaningfully in this world, one must seek out a true teacher. Seek wisdom through mentorship. If you want to excel, you must actively search for and learn from masters. But not just any teacher. It must be a wise and virtuous teacher. Don't settle for those who claim even half a character of teaching makes one a master. That saying about half a character doesn't define a true teacher. Those are merely conventional teachers who teach subjects like math, physics, or chemistry. A wise and virtuous teacher is someone extraordinary. They guide your life's direction and help deepen both your knowledge and thinking. These are the teachers we can call true treasures. The half-a-character teachers cannot be considered such precious gems. A true teacher must possess both moral virtue and wisdom. They must have both deep understanding and genuine compassion. Anyone lacking these two essential qualities is not worthy of being called a teacher. A teacher with abundant wisdom but little moral virtue poses a serious risk of deceiving us. Many such teachers exist today. They give compelling lectures, drawing us into their classes, and then we end up spending 3 to 5 years and significant money, sometimes even selling our homes to attend courses costing hundreds or thousands of dollars. The result? We neither earn money nor achieve financial freedom, but instead become their slaves. This exemplifies teachers who have intelligence but lack moral virtue. Conversely, teachers with moral virtue but lacking wisdom can't help much either. They may guide us with sincere dedication, but due to their lack of wisdom, they lead us down wrong paths, causing us to fail. We fall into pitfalls, return to ask for more guidance, and they earnestly continue giving misguided advice. Therefore, a true teacher must possess both moral virtue and wisdom in balance. But finding a completely well-rounded teacher nowadays is very difficult. No one excels in every field, so it's best to have several teachers. Learn from many people, take in different perspectives, then carefully consider and choose what works for you. Your life is determined by your own decisions. No one else can decide for you. Wise teachers are crucial. Those who guide and show the way are extremely important. But in today's society, many teachers don't meet proper standards. Some teachers engage in fraud and grade manipulation. Some students physically attack their teachers. This happens because teachers aren't fulfilling their role as proper teachers, and students aren't fulfilling their role as proper students. In a family with young children, wise teachers are the parents. When parents fail to fulfill their role as parents, children cannot fulfill their role as children. Many parents don't complete their responsibilities, leaving their children with grandparents. But many grandparents nowadays only know how to spoil children without teaching them anything meaningful. Spoiling is the seed and selfish. Dependence is the fruit. Try spoiling a 3 to 5-year-old child and you'll see them become selfish, weak, and dependent. As children grow older, past 10 years old, who becomes their wise teacher? Usually their school teachers. Notice how elementary school students often listen to their teachers more than their parents. If teachers don't fulfill their role as proper teachers, students won't fulfill their role as proper students. When entering university and stepping into the real world, if young people don't encounter positive role models, they'll view life negatively, believing that the world is full of nothing but deception and opportunism. What can we do to reform a positive environment? We should begin with the environment, and the foundation of this environment is the family. Parents must lead by example, walking their talk, passing on positive values. Wise teachers. Seek them out to learn the way of wisdom is always timeless and crucial for building a fulfilling life. The second key element, our living environment, is a good library. Over thousands of years of human history, where does the essence of knowledge reside? Does it lie in books, or in oral transmission, or perhaps in films? Among books, newspapers, films, and oral tradition, which one tends to preserve the most essential wisdom? Books, precisely. This isn't to deny the value of films, newspapers, or people and oral transmission. But we must understand what's most essential, because treasures only consist of carefully selected most important elements. We discard the peripheral details so we can focus and concentrate. When we choose too many things, we lose focus and cannot excel. Only when you focus on the right things can you develop properly. Focusing on trivial matters leads to scattered results. Among all these information channels, a good library is the most crucial. Using the term good library is actually modest. The more accurate term should be essential library. The library must contain essential works. The book should represent humanity's finest wisdom for you to read. Reading one essential book equals reading 100 ordinary books. And 100 ordinary books equal 1,000 romance novels. Even 1,000 romance novels cannot match the value of one essential book. Because when we consume junk, even if we consume 1,000 books of it, our mind will be filled with junk. But when we consume essential books, even just one, our mind holds wisdom. The difference is immense. That's why people say, "Tell me which books you value most, and I'll know who you are." Just tell me the 3 books on your bedside table, and I'll know who you are. In an essential library, books about great individuals and essential works are crucial. Notice that essential books are usually left behind by essential people, aren't they? How could essential books be left by farmers? That's very difficult. They must come from essential people. Essential people are called great individuals. So you should seek out and read about these great individuals. Find and read their works. First, you must learn about their lives, how they were born, grew up, developed their careers, aged, and died. Read about them, then identify their major works throughout their lives, and obtain those to read. Below the great individuals, at a slightly lower tier, are the scholars, heroes, and explorers. Heroes besides scholars are easy to understand, right? You can see they're already quite admirable. But why are explorers placed in this category? Explorers help us develop willpower and resilience in life. Without willpower and resilience, success is impossible. Sometimes work requires taking some risks. Being bold matters more than being handsome. Being bold means taking some risks. So these explorers, they take tremendous risks. They climb the world's highest mountains. They go up and half die along the way. Out of 5 people who go, only 2 returning is normal. They explore the Arctic and Antarctic. 20 people go, 5 return. That's normal. Meaning on these journeys, they've already accepted. Going means possibly not returning as a normal thing. By chance, I read many of these stories in my youth. Lots of exploration tales, but my father never read them. He only read books about scholars because he was a researcher. As a result, our home library had about 100 books, all about scholarly role models. But my father kept no books about heroes or explorers. And I discovered why. Because he was somewhat timid, so he didn't keep them to read. When he read them, he felt uneasy. Parents are often the same way. When they see their children reading exploration books, they flip through and think, "Wow, this person is amazing." But after reading for a while and seeing that person died along the way, they suddenly feel worried. What if my child becomes like this person? What if they die later? But it's just because we're timid. That's all it is. Living a meaningful life is more important than living a life just to get by. Yet strangely, we often choose to just get by. Like those parents who discourage their children from reading about explorers, we sometimes choose safety over meaning. We fear that pursuing a meaningful life might be dangerous. Just as parents worry their children might follow the adventurous paths they read about. But perhaps the greater risk lies in living without purpose, in simply existing day to day. Character-building books are essentially moral education books. Notice how people often use the phrase studying morality. But the true nature of morality requires cultivation. Just studying isn't enough. Studying is merely talking about it. But cultivation means you must be conscious of it, practice it, and even suffer for it. Practice doing good and suffer for it. Do volunteer work and get criticized behind your back. Look at that person, eating at home but carrying others' burdens. They haven't even sorted out their own household affairs but want to help others. You must accept these criticisms if you want to cultivate morality. So morality isn't just about learning. Learning isn't enough. It requires cultivation. That's why the term character cultivation is so apt. No one ever writes character learning. The word cultivation is much more powerful. The third connection we must find in our lives is about where we socialize and where we live. This will shape our friend groups. If you grow up in a poor neighborhood, you'll have 4 to 5 childhood friends from those times. When you go to school, you'll have classmates who become your companions through hardship. The same happens in university. Then one beautiful day, you get married and have an incredibly special friend who is bound to you for 40 to 50 years. People call this a life partner. Back then, when you were in love, they called it romance. But when you get married, the word love gradually fades away and it becomes life partner, right? And partners are meant to share their lives together. Now, if we get married for 2 years and then divorce, it becomes a temporary partner, just making do for 2 years. The meaning of life partner is lost. What a waste. Why do we lose the meaning of life partner? Because we lack character connection. Without awareness of character, you cannot share a lifetime together. Coming together in life isn't easy, and maintaining a lasting bond is even harder. However much joy you feel, you'll feel an equal amount of boredom after a few years. This is the truth. Nothing stays joyful forever. Joy is also impermanent. It comes and goes, arises and ceases. Yet we hope for eternal happiness. Does such a concept even exist? So in moments of boredom and exhaustion, it's character that determines whether we stay together. If we only seek pleasure and entertainment, we'll divorce and look for new love. Then the new relationship repeats the same pattern. Divorce again after a few years. Therefore, we must clearly understand what it means to be life partners. Spouses living together are life partners. This friend group only has 2 people, but it's very special. Though 2, they are 1. Though 1, they are 2. Then you go to work at a company, working from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 8 to 10 hours each day. You're influenced by the character of those you interact with. If you enter an office where all 10 people are corrupt, can you really stay clean? I guarantee that within 2 years, you'll be just as dark as the rest of them immediately. I have a cousin who worked as a traffic police officer. He stayed clean for exactly 6 months. So colleagues are very important, sometimes even more important than spouses. Why? Because when you get home to your spouse, you're actually sleeping for 6 to 7 hours of that time. How much real time do you have with them? Only 4 hours. You wake up in the morning and go back to work. You spend 10 hours at work, but only actually live with your spouse for 4 hours. So sometimes colleagues are even more important. So these 3 friend groups: 1. Friends from times of hardship. 2. Work colleagues from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. 3. Life partner, the one waiting at home, opening the door with a bright smile. They're extremely important. If at that moment their face is frowning, muttering complaints, nagging and criticizing, your life withers away. Among these 3 friend groups, friends from times of hardship, you just need to move away and you'll stop hanging out with them. Work colleagues, you can submit a resignation letter, apply to another company, find a new environment, a better boss. But you can't fire your life partner. Be careful, or they might fire you instead. To understand your life partner, you should study physiognomy. Just look at their face to understand your partner. When both spouses stand in front of a mirror, you can tell who bullies whom. Reduce the bullying, and life will be less painful. Some people bully with sugar-coated bullets, meaning they make demands with sweet words, speaking in an endearing tone, but behind that lies pressure. The more demands made, the more exhausted the husband or wife becomes. Then we ask them why. They often say, "I make demands because I want you to become better." But they're misusing the phrase, "become better," to create pressure, causing the other person to suffer. Women, when married, often have a possessive mindset. They want to hold their husband in the palm of their hand, like putting a phone in a purse. This makes the husband feel suffocated, leading to conflict. There's an old saying about marriage that goes like this: having a husband is like wearing a collar around your neck, while having a wife is like having a rope tied to your feet. Think of it this way: when a wife ties a rope to her husband's feet, it seems like he's free to move around. But in reality, whenever he goes just a bit too far, she pulls that rope and bam, he falls flat on his face and gets dragged back home. When this happens over and over, the husband gets frustrated. And here's what's interesting, especially with the seemingly gentle husbands. These quiet, mild-mannered men often keep their frustration bottled up inside. The more their wives keep pulling their strings, the more pressure builds up. Eventually, after enduring this day after day, even these gentle husbands might suddenly snap and become violent. It's like a pressure cooker. Keep adding pressure, and eventually it explodes. I see this clearly in cars. When a husband is driving with his wife next to him, she often tries to control everything he does. Hey, when your husband is driving, just leave him be. This is why spouses should truly be life partners. I can speak about marriage with such clarity because I've been married for 21 years. With 3 kids under my belt, I've got plenty of experience. In my home, we have 3 generations living together, with both sets of grandparents just a kilometer apart, so we're connected to both sides. This means I understand the mindset of both grandmothers, plus my wife. That's 3 women right there. And since my sister lives upstairs, I also get to see how she treats her husband. From what I've seen, 9 out of 10 wives are exactly the same. They treat their husbands like an object in their purse. That's why you'll notice these husbands develop more wrinkles over time. And here's the funny thing: the gentler the husband, the more wrinkles he gets. You know what they say: show me your 5 closest friends, and I'll tell you who you are. Tell me the 5 books that touched your heart the most, and I'll know who you are. Let me know which teachers shaped your life, and I'll understand who you are. That third point about teachers is rarely mentioned online or in books. They usually only mention those first 2 points. They miss this crucial one: tell me which teachers you follow, and I'll know who you are. When you study MBA in the West, you learn from professors who view everything through an economic lens. Once you graduate, you'll likely see the world the same way, believing economics is everything. Very few people can break free from this mindset. Very few people step back to question whether economics really should be the #1 priority in life. These 3 elements, friends, books, and teachers, you stand at the center and connect with all 3. Anyone who can successfully connect with these 3 aspects has found life's 3 treasures.